that other women too were looking forward to having leadership all the way up into the White House, and that was dashed. And it's going to take me a while to get over that, to be honest. But we do have an opportunity here in Harris County to change the dynamic of Commissioner's Court. For 31 years, we've had the same gentleman on Commissioner's Court, and he hasn't really addressed things that the community has been worried about. So when I talk to community, the people out there, they want to know, what are we doing about flooding? What is our plan to not only mitigate flooding, but also make sure that we're preventing and being proactive about solutions, because climate change and the climate crisis, it's not going away. We have to do something as a county, and I'm the only candidate that's talking about creating a county climate crisis plan, because we have to be leaders. We cannot be victims anymore. I know that people panic every time they see the forecast and they see a big storm. I have been in a car that, it was just a regular summer storm. And my car, I drove into a street where it was flooded and my car started floating. You believe in PTSD when you have an experience like that. I thought, do I need to go out the sunroof? I mean, what am I going to do? And people have had experiences like that all across Houston. So we have to work with neighboring governmental entities to make sure that we're addressing the climate crisis in a thoughtful way with short-term and long-term projects. Not only that, with the coming crisis of the coronavirus, we have to be proactive in making sure that we're providing good information to people, and that we're also creating ways for access for people, whether they're insured or not. Those people who are historically underserved, those who are homeless or displaced, those who are undocumented, those who don't have access to insurance, or they're just working poor and they don't have sick leave. What are we going to do about them? Because their health, it impacts our health. And we all need to work together to make sure that we're creating a good environment for everyone. So I'm going to continue to put updates on my Facebook page and on my website, because as County Commissioner, it's important and integral to make sure that you're giving good information to people. We're not getting that from our administration. We have to worry about what we can do here and locally. The next thing that I want to address is that some people may say, and they've said, you're an educator. What experience or how does that prepare you for being on the Commissioner's Court? Number one, I taught middle school. I can do anything. Number two, I was an advocate and I targeted lessons and I created solutions for my whole classroom all at the same time. So I was a problem solver, I took data, I made solutions, created long-term and short-term plans for students. But then I moved out of the classroom and started being a special education administrator. So I worked with staff to make sure that they were creating good plans for students, accessing resources, looking at data, facilitating meetings where people didn't always see eye to eye. So, and I've also gotten my administrative credential. So despite my experience looking a little different, it's more about policy than, you know, that actual hands-on experience that I can grow into, because I've had the skill set already. It's just a little, you know, teachers know how to improv. They have to like adjust at that moment, and so that is not something that intimidates me. So I just wanted to kind of dispel that. I am really excited about this opportunity for Harris County, because we have a chance to change the makeup of Commissioner's Court and make sure that we're looking at policy that's going to help people, to look at policy that's going to build community. And that's what my campaign is about. If you talk to the people who know me, that's what they say. And so I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate ROADwomen for having me today. And let's go get them. Thank you.
And let's take another round of applause. said tonight, so thank you. Our first speaker tonight doesn't really need an introduction. She is leading us to flipping not just Harris County, but beyond blue, and we need to flip it blue. Please welcome the Harris County Democratic Party Chair, Lily Schechter.
Hi, my name is Lily Schechter, and I've taken enough cough medicine today to barely remember that. So I apologize in advance. I do have a cold. I'm very congested. So please, if you can't understand what I'm saying or I drone on and on, I apologize. I wanted to first make sure everyone in the room knew we had an election last Tuesday. Exactly 1 week ago today, we had our primary election. It feels to me like it's been months since this last election, but it's really only been 7 days. So we had some really amazing things that came out of the last election. Number one, we had higher turnout in this Democratic primary than we've had in decades, which means Democrats are excited. Number two, we did implement a new way of voting for the first time ever this last primary. We had countywide voting for the first time in the primary. Number three, for the first time in a primary, we had early vote hours that were from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., both weeks of early vote. All of those things are because of our county clerk, Diane Trump. So we had some really good things happen last election cycle, or last election day, I'm sorry. We had some interesting things happen that we weren't really prepared for. We were not prepared to have lines that lasted for upwards of 6 hours, depending on where you were. That was something really new this last election. We haven't seen that in Harris County in my lifetime. The other thing we had this last election cycle, this last election, is that for the primary, for election day, the Democrats and Republicans had to agree on all 400 locations. We've never had to agree on locations with the Republican Party because we've never done countywide voting. So in order to continue with countywide voting, we had to agree with the Republicans on all 400 locations. That turned out to be a little bit disastrous. We did not have enough locations in Precincts 1 and Precinct 2, and they had more locations in Precinct 3 and Precinct 4. Unfortunately, in order to continue with countywide voting, we had to agree on all the locations. The Republican Party told us, we don't care about countywide voting. That's y'all's initiative. That's not our initiative. If y'all want to continue with countywide voting, you're going to have to agree to these locations. And we fought as hard as we could, but at the end of the day, we ended up with not enough locations. So this last primary was absolutely a learning lesson. I think there's some things we have to consider for the next primary. Number one, we need to change the election code at the legislature, which means we have to win state house races in November. We have to take back the Texas House in order to control voting in Texas. It's super exciting that in 2018 we had a Democratic sweep at the state level. And that's because everyone here worked so hard in 2018. It's amazing that we control county government. County commissioners have a 3-2 voting block and have been able to do some amazing things. But what we haven't done yet is we haven't taken back the state house. And Republicans for the last 20 plus years, 30 years, have been writing election code. So we actually don't control the election and what it looks like until we control the state house. So everything we did this primary election, at the local party, we made over 100,000 phone calls and sent over 100,000 texts and knocked on a ton of doors and sent out 150,000 vote-by-mail applications. All of those were a dry run for the November election because we have to make sure that in Harris County, we not only win up and down the ballot, we have to protect our state reps that we need to protect, Gina Kalani and John Rosenthal, we need to protect them, and we need to flip some seats, one of those being 134, where we are right now, which is going to require everyone to deep dig. I know it feels like we've been campaigning since after the 2016 election, because we have been. The moment Trump got elected, we all started campaigning to make sure he's not re-elected in 2020. We're in the home stretch. It's like the last 5 miles of the marathon, which are the hardest 5 miles, but we have to dig deeper to make sure that this November we win up and down the ballot, we will not have straight ticket voting this upcoming November, which means it's critical for every person in here, when you talk to your friends, your neighbors, when you go to drop your kid off at school, when you get your hair done, when you go to the grocery store, you talk to everyone about the importance of voting up and down the ballot. We will not be able to re-elect all of our new judges, old judges, etc. if we do not punch every button on the ballot. And the good thing is, when you get into the ballot in November, it's going to be long, but there's going to be a Democrat next to everyone's name. You're going to know who they are. You don't have to think about it. You do not have to take in a sample ballot. You need to go in and punch the D next to every single person's name, because we are not fighting back in the state of Texas. We will never control our state if we don't elect everybody from the school. We don't have a school board on this ballot, but everybody from our constables all the way up to the Democratic candidate for president. So it's incredibly important that you train, and I don't mean train because this is not a casual activity. We're at war, we are the soldiers, and you have to train your friends and family to be soldiers also. Over the next few months of the party, we will have lots of trainings, but the most immediate thing we have going on, you're going to hear from Jonathan and Angela in a little bit, is our joint county convention on March 21st. I'm not going to steal their thunder, but I am going to say every person in here should be registered to come to our joint county convention. It will be the first time that we have ever done this in Harris County, where we will host almost all of our Senate districts in one location to make sure that we can, and bring in your friends so that they can be trained also and they can see what the democratic process is going to look like. Because we have to continue to build momentum from now till November. We cannot, think if I can get this expression right, we cannot take our foot off the gas right now. We have to continue pushing forward and make sure that we're building our army and that we're all moving in the same direction. Primaries are hard, right? Your friends are fighting your friends. You like people in all the races. You may have known all, we'll have one race where you've known all the candidates, all of them. So you have to make a choice. Except for the runoffs, you're done making a choice, right? We're only on the D team, and that is what we're doing from now until November. So I want to make sure at the party that we're giving you everything you need to make sure that you're most well-equipped, that you're the most well-trained, and that you're helping us reach your friends and your neighbors and your, at your nail salon, at your hair salon, at your school, everywhere. Because it's not just about the people in the room who I'm so grateful that y'all are all here tonight with everything going on in the world. Y'all are here. But I know without a doubt that every person in this room is going to vote in November. I'm not worried about you voting up and down the ballot. I'm worried about all the people that you're friends with, your acquaintances, making sure that anybody that's a likely Democrat is voting up and down the ballot. So we need to all push that forward together. I am happy to take some questions if you have any questions, but I would not be doing my job if I didn't also say www.harrisdemocrats.com. That is the Democratic Party website. On there, please make sure that you are signed up for our Blue Report. We send out a report every 2 weeks of all the activities going on, so you can see everything happening around the county. We also post all different kind of information about what we're doing with the upcoming Senate district conventions. We ask that everyone become a sustaining member of the Democratic Party. If you cannot be a sustaining member, we ask that you make a donation. If you have any questions about our membership, Rufi Natarajan is in the back. She can help you sign up to be a sustaining member. But I would ask that you all go to our website, either sign up or donate and get involved, because it's going to take all of us working together to move everything forward this November. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take a couple. We'll start 1, 2, 3.
You have a coordinated new voter registration program?
So the question is, are we going to have a coordinated new voter registration program? So absolutely, we're doing that at several levels. We're working with the state party to make sure that anybody who has moved into Harris County as a registered voter from someone else, we are sending them a voter registration card and following up with them with volunteers. We also work with all of our amazing groups around the county from, the partisan ones that we work with from Battleground Texas and TFN and everyone else that does amazing voter registration. And once they get registered, we make sure that they're in our universe so that we target them to make sure they come out in November. Yes?
Yes, thank you for everything you shared and all the good work that you've done. My question is regarding November. Will there, is there a possibility of getting more voting booths in the areas that were underserved? I know that they won't have the problem of the, empty Republican booths, which was wonderful. But have you considered that?
So, number one, the election in November is controlled by the county clerk's office. It is not run by either party, and neither party has to agree on anything. The November election is run by the county clerk's office. The county clerk has already agreed that she will have more locations open on election day than she's ever had before. She has also said that, in order for the machines, this last election, the machines had to be split between 2 locations. So while there were 400 locations, there were actually 800 locations because both parties were sharing locations. The Republicans dictated to the county clerk that they would not let her program 2 ballots on 1 machine, right? So that's why we would go to a location and the Republican side would have nobody voting and all these empty machines and Democrats could not use them. For the general election, each machine will have the same ballot on there. So we'll already have more machines that she can allocate to each location. And the third thing that she is doing is she has already started looking for the same machines to purchase to add to the machines we already have. So that this election she can actually buy more machines to add to the ones we're already using. Yeah, so we're buying new machines, we're divvying them up differently, which I think will make a huge difference. And we'll have more public locations open.
Hi Lily, I'm Leslie Kaufman, how are you? My question is, you said that you had to vote for every person going down. What if you accidentally miss one? As we get older, we forget to do things sometimes.
So, for the general election, everyone should review their ballot. So before you actually hit the cast ballot button, there is a review button, and highlighted in red will tell you if you missed a...
I know to do that, but there are a lot of people who don't.
What I think she's actually trying to say is when you talk to people about voting, make sure you have in-depth conversations with them about the ballot and how important it is to review every position on the ballot. It's okay if you don't know someone's name on the ballot, because you do know as a Democrat that we share values, right? That we absolutely agree on about 95% of the things. It's like all of our candidates running for president. We actually all agree on 95% of the things. There's just a few things we disagree on how you implement them. But so make sure when you talk to people that when you're voting for a Democrat, you're voting someone who shares your values, and then you should go through every person on the ballot, and then before you cast the ballot, they let you review your ballot, and you should talk about with your friends and neighbors that voting may take longer this time. Be prepared, but make it an outing. Grab some of your friends to go together. One of the things we do at the Democratic Party office is we all vote together every election. The staff, we all get together and we go, and it feels good because we are celebrating our right to vote with people that we like. So do that with some of your friends and family, so that when you go, you can go through with them every location, every position on the ballot, and then review your ballot before you cast it. And then one of the other things that we're going to be doing after we get through the runoffs is the Democratic Party is going to create a pamphlet. I don't have one with me, a mock one. It's going to be a voter guide that will tell you who every Democrat is on the ballot. And we are going to provide those to all of the clubs around the county so that we can all be pushing the same information with a voter guide that shows you every person on the ballot.
Lily, I'm sorry, I'm disappointed in your answer. Is it a yes or a no? What if you miss one? There are a lot of people who live in apartments, okay? A lot of Hispanics, a lot of people with lower income. This is really an elite group. I'm talking about the average Joe that I'm not going to have come in contact with. What if they miss one? They don't review the ballot. They miss voting for somebody. Is that going to discount their entire ballot? That's what I'm asking.
Oh, no,
You said be sure to vote for everything, and if you don't, your ballot's not good.
No, I'm sorry. I never said your ballot's not good if you miss an election.
What did you say?
And I'm sorry if it sounded like I said that.
Thank you.
I was saying that you need to review every position on the ballot and make sure that everyone you know votes for every person on the They will not be voting for every single person, but their ballot will absolutely still count. Sorry, I didn't understand your question.
Thank you, Lily, for being here, even though you're feeling under the weather. Everybody's giving it for Lily. I'm gonna, because she said she was sick, I've got my wipes. But I do want to bring up our next speakers. I don't want to go into lengthy introductions because we are being aware of time. And so, if you could please help me welcome our Senate District 15 Chair, Jonathan Ferranti Miller, and our Senate District 7 Chair, Angela Williams.
Hello, everyone. First off, thank you for allowing us to be here today. Angela and I are very excited to be here. Angela's going to pass around some information for everybody. And like Lily introduced earlier, we're here to talk about the Joint County Convention. Just by show of hands, who has been at a Senate District Convention before? Okay, very good. You put your hands down. Who has not been to a Senate District Convention before? Okay, this is good, about 50-50. So, what we typically do, so raise your hand if you don't know what I'm even talking about. Okay, thank you. Sometimes I question it too, it's okay. Now, have you all heard about the DNC convention? You heard that? Yes, okay. So if you want to become a delegate to that high level where everyone gets to have fun and argue and party and whatever, you first got to start in Texas at your Senate District Convention. So this is the first year, so this is the first step in that process, and it's going to be joint. So Senate Districts 4, 6, 7, 13, 15, 17, and 18 will all be together at the George R. Brown Center next Saturday. Basically, that's the entire county besides like South Pasadena, Friendswood area, okay? And Caroline. Some of Deer Park, LaPorte area too. And so what we're going to do there is we're going to do a number of things. First, the most important thing is we're going to elect delegates to the state. So that's the second step to become a national delegate. And we'll also be having rules committee, which will help change our rules for the next 2 years for the state Democratic Party's rules. We'll also have a resolutions committee that will build resolutions that will go to state and help build the state party's platform for the next 2 years. So there's a lot of very important work that goes into this. When we talk about, well, what gets on the platform, this is how you start that process. And then we also want to have a lot of candidates, we'll have trainings, and I'm going to pass it to Angela to talk about the different trainings that we're going to have that we're also very excited about.
We're going to have workshops pretty much for all attendees. We're going to have 7 different workshops, and some of the workshops will be repetitive, so that if you don't make the first session, you can make the second session. And so what we're planning is delegate orientation for those of you that have questions or just want to know what the process is to becoming a state and a national delegate. And those are going to be like 15-minute sessions. And then we're going to have someone speak on the 2020 census. You'll learn in this session what the census will do, why it's important that you complete the census, how you complete it, and something that you wouldn't expect is that there are a lot of job opportunities working on the 2020 census. Some of them are actually high-paying jobs. So Jesse Ibanez, who is the SDEC chairman for Senate District 7, will give a presentation on that. We're going to have voter deputy registration training. So if you are not a voter registrar right now, you'll be able to get your certification at the convention. We can only have 2 sessions because they're an hour apiece. You will be able to register online in advance within the next couple of days, and we'll get out some communication for you on that. We're going to have a session that is going to go anywhere from a beginner volunteer for the Democratic Party, all the way to pretty much an expert. We're calling it Ways to Engage, where you can learn about different strategies if you've been a volunteer for Democrats for a long time, or you're a newbie and you just want to know, what do I do? You know, what kind of a commitment? And in between is strategies for block walking, phone making, and whatnot. We're going to have a Democratic Civics 101 class, and I heard the speaker last night, and that is going to be awesome. We'll have 3 sessions of that. We're going to have a media roundtable with bloggers, journalists, that will discuss the state of play. Basically, what is the role of journalism? You know, and what is their duty to report? So that should be really interesting as well. And then finally, we'll have Moms Demand Action do a sensible gun control workshop. So we're really excited about the workshops, and again, I think it offers something for everyone.
And with that, with these trainings, when we, and I want you to pump this up, because there is a lot of thought that went into this. You know, so not everyone wants to go to the state convention, correct? I mean, not everyone wants to go to San Antonio and spend a weekend there, you know, run around and be crazy with us. But we wanted to build this thing so anyone that was just curious about the process could come to this and learn about it. So a little bit about me. When I started, my first engagement with party politics was the Senate District Convention and the State Convention in 2016. There's going to be a lot of new people that will come into this process, and we want to make sure that we are creating an environment that's engaging to everyone. No matter if this is your first time stepping into a party activity, or if you've been doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. We want this to be exciting, engaging. We want everyone to get something out of this and learn more about what the party is and what you can be doing. So it's very exciting.
It is, and you just remind me of something, Jonathan. We, as a committee, mainly the Senate district chairs, for all of the Senate districts that are going to participate in this, we've been working since August. And every 2 weeks we were getting together initially and just developing a program, a vision, things that we would need to consider. And it's finally coming, to be, right? And so we're a little bit nervous because this is the first time we've done it, and it's a big undertaking. But the one thing that I've learned is I've learned so much about other parts of the city. Even coming here, I've never been to this church before. I live out in Katy. But it's also given me a different perspective on what each Senate district needs, and they're all different, to tell you the truth. Like, you all may be able to vote for 134, rep, but I can't do that. So it gives, I think, everyone a bigger appreciation for just how large Harris County is. We're larger than 23 states
This
in
convention
terms of voting power.
in Harris County is larger than 23 other states. This county convention will be larger than 23 other state conventions. Our county is that big. So it's a big deal. I know we think, oh, it's a county. We're not just a county. We break away today, we'd be larger than Rhode Island and almost the size of Delaware.
So coming to the convention, especially if you've never been to one before, you're going to get a sense of how big Harris County is, and hopefully interact and meet people that you're not going to meet if you live out in Katy, because there's going to be people that are from Kingwood there. So I'm really excited that we are able, to put on a convention that I think will have ramifications. Hopefully we'll get, hear about it in the news for years to come, and hopefully this will be the first of many. And then the other big thing that I didn't mention is we hope to have a national speaker. If we were just doing a single Senate district convention, I know we couldn't do it. But there really is a lot of power when you pull everything together and do it together, because together we win. And that's our slogan for the convention.
So with that, I think we're ready to open up for questions. Hold up, I forgot a big thing. If you're interested, so the other thing that we normally do as Senate district chairs or Senate districts during this time is this is our fundraiser. Most of the Senate districts only fundraise every 2 years. Okay? So for a lot of us, this is our moment. Tomorrow night at Chapman and Kirby, from 6 to 8 p.m., we'll be having a little blue wave mixer. It'll be casual, there'll be some drinks. What?
They're going to be blue drinks.
Yes, they're going to be blue drinks.
Yeah.
And it's just a just a little mixer, get ready. We'll be answering questions for you, have a little bit of fun. We'll be having another fundraiser after the convention when we can plan a much bigger fundraiser. But please donate to us. There's a lot of organizations that do ask for money, and not this organization, but there are a lot of organizations out there that you don't really know where your money's going to. When you donate to us, you know it's directly going straight back into Harris County. I think every Senate District Chair has plans for the Get Out the Vote efforts that they're going to do in their Senate District. So by donating every dollar that you would give to us, it's going to go right back into getting this very bad person out of the White House and eventually getting Abbott out of Austin. So please attend that.
Thank you.
And so we'll open up for Q&A if you have any questions. And with the caveat of, we've been doing, like Angela said, we've been doing this for a long time now. So we may have forgotten to say things to you. So we're more than welcome to answer any questions. Yes?
Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town on the 21st, but I'm still interested in getting it done.
So there is a mechanism for that. It's a little bit tricky. So the way it works is, okay, so I'm going to get a little bit wonky, so just bear with me. First, Senate District 15 has 480 delegates that will be going to the state convention. If we do not fill those 480 spots day of, those remaining seats are open for anyone that was not in attendance at the Senate District Convention. So if we have 470 show up and we have 10 left over, we can give those 10 spots to anyone that wasn't at the convention itself. But if we had 500 people show up, want to be delegates, we would be allotting all of our 480 delegates at that time.
What's the mechanism for applying?
There is a form that can go out. I think that goes out after the conventions.
Yeah, you can, and especially because of the COVID virus, you can sign up. You want to pre-register for the convention and then indicate that you want to be a state delegate. There will be some at-large positions that may be available and you should apply for. So you just indicate that, yes, you still want to go to the state convention.
And there may be some remaining delegates. This is a little bit more on the Texas Democratic Party realm when this happens. So I'm giving you some answers, but it may not be 100% correct. There may also be other delegates from other parts of the states that they can push you in for those. Jerry, how are you next?
So, a couple things. I heard some of this was presented actually by Tom Gedberg, who was doing on the fly for SC13, because our Senate District Chair was there. So, the first way you can get in is actually get in touch with your Senate District Chair, or your precinct chair, if you're not the precinct chair, and let them know. Because, as I understand it, this is still operating, even though it's a countywide convention. You're still meeting in, you may be meeting in precinct caucuses, which we did before. Those to be separate, but not two steps, all in one. Also, you'll be meeting in Senate District caucuses, which were separate and are not that way before. So,
and that is a true statement. Each Senate district will caucus and elect delegates for their Senate district, independent of the joint convention.
it's also, when I talk about the selection for committees, who serves on the committees, be there, board committees, I believe that, be on Senate districts, we nominate people to that as well.
Okay, does everyone know who their Senate district chair is? For Senate District 4, it is Philip McNutt. For 6, it's Yolanda Alvarado. For 7, it's Angela Williams. For 13, it's Paula Bowden. For 15, it's Jonathan Miller. For 17, it is Alicia Gertz. And then 18, it is Dwight Ford. So if you want to serve on one of 4 convention committees, there's rules, resolutions, nominations, and credentials. We're actually going to be voting as a Senate district on those at tomorrow night CEC meeting. Thursdays, I'm sorry, it is Thursday. But if you want to serve on any one of those 4 convention committees, you'll need to talk to your Senate district chair to make sure you get on the list and that you're nominated and then ratified at the CEC meeting on Thursday. The 4 committees are rules, resolutions, nominations, and credentials.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The question is, are there any semblance to the old caucus system that we had 30 years ago, where if you go to the county convention, there would be delegates for this and that candidate, if there were controversies, and so forth. So what issues get decided?
And correct me if I don't answer your question. What we'll be doing there is you will be declaring which presidential candidate that you're backing, so who you're actually a delegate to. At a Senate District Convention, you become a state delegate, you go up there. At the state level, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. So, let me get a little wonky again. Okay, so I'm going to put SC15 so I know our numbers. SC15 has 480 people that we will be sending to the state convention. When we get to the state convention, we will only be sending 6 people to the national convention. Those 6 have to be divided by how our Senate district voted. So for 15, we don't have the official numbers yet, but it looks like Biden will have 3 delegates from 15, Bernie Sanders will have 2 delegates from 15, and Bloomberg will have 1 delegate from 15. At the state convention, you will be campaigning. If you want to go to the DNC, you will have to campaign, you'll have to talk to your neighbors, everyone that's there to convince them to do that. At the state convention as well, they do have different caucuses, such as there's a women's caucus, there's a youth caucus, college Dems, labor, there's all sorts of caucuses as well in there that will also be selecting delegates as well at that time. And then that's also where we'll handle any resolutions and rule changes that pass so many different Senate districts. Those will get automatically rolled up to the state convention level, and then at the state level, rules and resolutions committees will address that there, and that will be rolled up to the state party platform, and anything that gets passed there will get rolled up to the national level. Did that answer your question?
Most of it.
What am I missing?
There was the allocation from the Super Tuesday. So people that want to be delegates, do they have to announce, well, this is to be a delegate for this or that?
Yep. So at our convention on March 21st, you will have to declare who you are a delegate for. You can, let's say you voted for Elizabeth Warren, and you live in SC15, and Elizabeth Warren does not have any delegates in 15. You can change who you want to be a delegate for day of. So if you're an Elizabeth Warren, you voted for Elizabeth Warren, I'm not going to use the example, let's say you want to be a Bloomberg delegate now, you can make that switch day of. And that's how you declare. So when you go to state, you're that delegate at state. And then the division goes out with the math up at state level. So that's all in the rules. It's how many people voted, how many delegates each Senate district get is by how many people voted for Lupe in 2016 divided by 300. That's how each one got divided out. And then from state to national, it's proportional to the vote as well. And it gets broken down into who voted for which presidential candidate. There's state at large, there's Senate districts, there's caucuses, delegates. There's all sorts of things that go in there. So a lot of the stuff, I don't know if it happened, it used to happen at the Senate district level. All that stuff happens at the state level.
I think it used to happen at the precinct level when we used to two-step.
Okay, so and in the precinct level, we don't do the precinct caucuses anymore unless we go over our limit. So if Senate District 15 has less than 480 or less delegates, we'll automatically put everyone in. If we have 481, we automatically go into the precinct caucuses at the index. So we will break down into every single precinct, which I have 208 in my Senate district. And we will go one by one and elect delegates on a precinct level. So it could be a very long day for me if that happens. Hold on, let me see if anyone's got another. If anyone else have a question, let me make sure I'm getting everybody. Yes.
Did that answer your question, sir? Completely?
Not completely.
All right.
In other words, there's no great controversy. Issues of advantage to the society.
No.
Everybody uses what I was saying. And then at the state level, they do submissions. They're not obligated to advance.
Correct.
You can't go to the convention and you want to be a delegate and you have slots left over, you could go to the site now and sign up like you're going to the convention and you're supposed to check that I can't go but I want to be a delegate. So you can get in the pool right now. You don't have to wait till after.
Thank you. Yes, Jared.
There will be at-large delegates as well from the state level to the national. So if you don't get one of those 6 positions, they use at-large to balance out the gender and preferences and the disability preferences and variety of disability activities. 4 or 5 groups that are specifically identified that the Democratic Party has said we want representation from those groups at our convention. If they aren't met by the delegates or nominated or selected by election, then there are other ways of balancing that, and they use at-large delegates to do that. So there are a lot of different ways to fit in. In addition to being, you can go as an alternate, and if someone drops out that got sick or whatever, you can also fill a position by being an alternate. Even, if you go there and someone drops out, during the day out, who knows what will happen with coronavirus.
Thank you. With the coronavirus, the convention is still on. The date is March 21st. So, a couple things with the coronavirus. We have talked about it. The conventions are a part of Texas state law. So, this needs to go on regardless. The only way this would be canceled is if Greg Abbott calls a special session and the state legislatures change the laws. As of right now, by law, we are legally required to do this. Now, if it becomes, we have some measures in place if it gets extremely worse, that we can do to limit exposure and things like that if need be. But by law, we do have to continue this.
And you all understand that the convention, it is the day for all Senate districts and counties across all of Texas, both Democrat and Republican, that have these conventions. The 21st is the date that everyone does their convention. So we don't have a lot of flexibility, but we're hoping, we can still carry it on. And unless you hear otherwise, and it would be a huge thing if they were to cancel it, it will go forward.
Is there any more questions? Comments, concerns? Okay. If you have any more questions, you can ask us on, please make sure you come to the fundraiser tomorrow. It's really important. Mixer, Chapman and Kirby, 6 to 8. We really appreciate your donations. And if you have any more questions, you can find both of us on Facebook. I'll also give you my email. It is J as in John, F as in Frank, M as in Miller, Miller as in Miller, dot HTX is in Houston, Texas, @gmail.com. So, thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
That was J.S. Miller at HT. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming. If you have not already joined ROADwomen, we'd love to have you. Thank you to our new members. Kelly, thank you for joining. We have a new member here. If you haven't already joined, we have slips in the back. But thank you so much to Diana for sponsoring today, and thank you to all of our esteemed candidates and elected officials. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
It's a whole month. It's a whole